To make your swing as consistent as possible, listen, if you draw that line up the shaft, I tell everyone all the time, I just want the club to go like right up and down that line. That'd be the easiest way to do it, the most consistent golfer. The least consistent golfer is not on plane. They're all over the place. They're under plane, over plane, whatever, but they're not on plane. So no matter what, we have to get it on during the downswing. Hey guys, just want to give a special shout out to our sponsors, Municipal. You guys see me wearing the hats and the shirts in all of these videos. They've been a great partner for us, and I absolutely love all of the clothing, and really they're just getting better and better and better. They're dropping new gear all the time. Some of it's in limited quantity, so if you want to go check that out and you like it, make sure you grab that right away. They've got a new line of golf apparel coming out, but they don't have just the golf stuff. I'm also wearing the Municipal things really everywhere. I wear the shorts and t-shirts to the gym. The hoodies that they have are like the most comfortable thing, the hoodies and the sweatpants. So it's really stuff that I can wear and you can wear when you're going to play golf, but it's also casual. I mean, I could leave the golf course, be at home, go to the gym. Absolutely love the Municipal gear. If you haven't tried any of it before, grab a polo, grab a Municipal hat. You're gonna absolutely love their gear. We'll put the link in the description down below. So outside of club face angle, the swing plane, right, the direction you swing the club on during the downswing has got to be one of the most important parts of the swing, maybe the 1, 2, or 3 top things. When I ask questions to people that I work with, I ask them 9 questions to get started to tell me a little bit about their game. Inevitably, everyone wants the same thing. They say, Eric, I want a consistent golf swing. I want to build a swing pattern that's repeatable and consistent, that works out on the golf course. And the first 2 things that I see amongst swings that enable that consistent, repeatable swing is number 1, club face. You heard me talk about that. And number 2 is this swing plane. Now, what is swing plane and why is it so important? If I took my setup, I've got an 8-iron here, but this applies to all clubs, and I drew a line, maybe we can put a line on the screen right up my shaft at setup. The important part here is, and what you would see good ball strikers do with consistent swings, is during the downswing, that club head would get right back on that line by about hip high, and it would ride that line all the way to impact. Now, that would produce a club path that's pretty straight, a low point that's good, and very consistent golf. Okay, that's what our swing plane is. Now, how you get there to me is less important. There's things that make it a little easier, a little bit harder, but you would see some guys like Adam Scott, they go a little bit outside of the plane during the takeaway, but then they come right back down by club head parallel or hip high, it rides right back down impact. We have Grant Waite we use a lot. He goes a little under the plane early, but guess what? He comes back down, he comes right back down on that line. So while I certainly have takeaway preferences, to make your swing as consistent as possible, listen, if you draw that line up the shaft, I tell everyone all the time, I just want the club to go like right up and down that line. That'd be the easiest way to do it, the most consistent golfer. The least consistent golfer is not on plane. They're all over the place. They're under plane, over plane, whatever, but they're not on plane. So no matter what, we have to get it on during the downswing. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways to practice this in a moment. But first, I think it's important to understand that and identify which end of the spectrum you live on. So there's 3 ways to swing during your downswing. You can swing on the plane line, right on that original plane line. You can swing on top of the plane line, or you can swing underneath the plane line. So on it, that would be good, consistent golf. Over it or on top of it, or underneath it. And you can identify which of those 2 you are based on your ball flight pattern. So typically, there's going to be an association with handicap, meaning typically higher handicap players or like more beginner players or a little higher handicap, you would typically see, and this may be you go over the plane line. Now, if you're over the plane line, you would see pulls to the left and fades to the right, pulls and fades. The other option would be you'd be under the plane line like this. Now, if you're under the plane line, typically that's a better player problem. But you would hit pushes and hooks. So you can be on plane, over plane, or under plane. The closer you are to that plane line, the more consistent you play. Now what I want to do is show you, hey, if I am this over plane person, how do I practice and improve that? And then I want to show you, hey, if I am that under plane, how do I practice and improve that? And then really, the third thing is kind of like the ultimate practice station, which you could get put the 2 together to get the club like right down on the slot that we want to have. But let me show you the practice station if you're the player that's too far over the plane and you have the pulls and the fades. So if you're the player that's too far over the plane, this is like my favorite go-to plane station. I just have an alignment rod here through a range bucket. If you don't have a range bucket, you could put the alignment rod right into the ground, or like a lot of players will put it right through a cardboard box. Now, how I have this set up, there's a lot of ways to do it, but again, keeping in mind, if you're too far over, I want you to ride right down the plane line. You need to feel the opposite of your mistake, meaning you need to feel like the arms, hands, club are working more from inside. So we want to have a practice station that's designed to prevent you from coming too far over. So I like to have the stick, if you put the club right down your toe line, and it's about parallel to the ground, I say it's about parallel to the ground, the shaft's maybe 3/4 of the way back, down the shaft in terms of how far that way. But from this angle, you see if it's right down my toe line, I just give myself a couple of inches above that, maybe about like a hand width above that. And I need to be able to learn to swing the club inside of that. And so as you're starting doing this and you're swinging more from inside, there's a bunch of sensations that you may have. You're certainly going to be feeling like the arms, hands, club are working more from inside to the golf ball. And I would start training this just at like a half swing length just to start with. And I would expect to start to see some pushes and hooks, right? So there's a ball that's going to curve more to the left compared to normal. Now, that's what I would want to see. If I'm a golfer who's too far over plane, and I hit pulls and fades, I probably want to see some more kind of pushes and hooks here when I'm doing this, if anything. So you're going to feel like the arms, hands, club work more into the ball. If you're too far over it, in terms of the body motions, very likely too much chest and shoulder rotation too soon. If anything, you're going to feel like your back stays towards the target a little, and you reduce a little bit of that chest and shoulder rotation. But the arms, hands, club are definitely going to feel like they swing more from inside. Now, I'm already too far under plane, so I need the second one you're going to see in a minute. But for these feels, you would want to feel swinging more from inside, keeping those body lines a little bit closed. And you should get some of those. Little pushes, little draws if you overdo it. And that's the key, right? You want to see the opposite of your normal ball pattern. So up to the top, feel like that back stays towards the target a second longer. The arms, hands, club are working more from inside. That club head feels like it's kind of going underneath the shoulder, through the forearm, inside the hands, into that ball, back towards the target. You may even from face on, if you come too far over, the issues would be too much chest and shoulder rotation, head working too far forward. So if anything, you would feel like your chest and shoulders stay closed. You might add a little bit of side bend as you're working the arms, hands, club in, but this would be a beautiful station to start with. And you start short and slow, right? Little half swings and gradually build up to longer. Let's go ahead and do this one more time. So arms, hands, club a little bit more from inside. That one I timed out better. So that's perfect if you're that first golfer. Now, if you're like me and you tend to get too far under plane, I'm going to show you in a minute how to practice that one. Okay, so the second station here, if you're like me and you normally get too far under, right, if we're referencing that line that we started on, if you get too far under that coming down, this is a beautiful station. Now, same objects, right, stick, bucket, you can use that in the ground or put it through a cardboard box. Now, this time where I put this in, I like to have the stick angled where it's kind of right up the back of the butt line. See, that kind of goes right up the back of my butt line. There's different ways to set it up and different angles you'll see, right? Some people, I typically will kind of put it halfway between the golf ball and my feet. If I were to cut that in half, again, I'm putting it far enough back from face on where it's like 3/4 of the way down the shaft. But I would put it about halfway and angle it through the back of my butt. Remember, our ultimate goal here is what? Get the club riding right back down the line that it started on. So if I'm too far underneath, let's say I'm too far under, then what do I need, right? I need to feel like the club is a bit more on top of the plane line, if anything else. This is going to feel a little bit more kind of over the top. I might feel like my chest and shoulders open a little bit sooner, kind of the exact opposite of the other issue. So I would put this plane station in. I use this a lot with a lot of players who are too far underneath. You draw the line up the shaft. You just want to trace that right up and right back down. So same deal, I would start with little half swings. I should see less of my issue. My issue, if you're this golfer, is push and hook. So if anything, if I overdid it, it'd be like pull and fade, right? So let's go ahead and do one here. Club's more in front of us, both back and through. So if you're the pusher and hooker, you would get more of that sort of ball flight, right? Pretty straight, maybe just a touch of a little cut. And if you're too under plane, that also serves to move your low point back. So like if you're way under that plane line, you're gonna hit some fats and thins because your low point is back. So this station not only is gonna fix fats and thins, it's gonna make, or pushes and hooks, right? It's gonna fix both of those. So I'm gonna get the ball traveling straighter, less push, less hook, and my compression's gonna be a lot better. So for me, I need to do this station. Like I need to practice with this for my stock pattern, get that club riding right up and down that plane line, and this prevents me from going way too far underneath. Again, the torso motions that you might feel as you're doing this, right? So for me, this is more the pattern that I need just to neutralize. So my tendency right now is to overclose that face a little bit, but in terms of swing path, that puts me very neutral, 1.3. Now again, you would get the opposite of the other player. If you're 2 under, you might consider having the chest and shoulders open a little bit sooner. You might feel like your arms, hands, club work a little bit out more. Your left shoulder pulls up and around, right? Your trail shoulder's down and forward. Those are just different ways to help get the club more out in front of you on the plane line. Always earn it at a half swing length, then you can build into 3/4 and full. Let's go ahead and do one more. Keeping the club much more in front, right on the plane line, and keeping things very neutral. So if you're the player that goes too far under, this is the secondary option. The last part I just want to tell you is if you really want to build like the ultimate practice station, how you can combine the two. Okay, last little piece as you're working this, once you get used to doing the opposite of your issue and you want to learn how to find middle ground, what I would consider doing is just combining the two together, right? So if I had this outside station and I swing right down on my plane line, I'd swing underneath that. But I also could put my behind me station here and just kind of build myself a little bit of a zone, right? Draw a line right up the shaft line. See how if I swung right up and down that same plane line, it would go right in between these two. So oftentimes what I'll do with players is give them the initial one, get them hitting the opposite pattern of their current. That helps find middle. And then to ensure that you don't over exaggerate or overdo it, I would just double those stations up. So remember, swing plane, guys, like club face angle, king, queen of the hill, swing plane's right there with it. Okay, if you want the reliable swing, you want consistency day to day, the farther you go off of that plane on either side, the more things you have to make up for. You want less timing, you want more repeatability, more consistency. Get that riding up and down. Record yourself from down the line, draw the line up the shaft, find out where you are, and you can kind of identify based on your ball flight. Use these to practice the opposites. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave a comment down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments what other drill stations you might like, what you've done to help your swing plane. Consider clicking that little like button, always helps us. Maybe share this with a friend. Click subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate you guys watching.